Listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Donald, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Cassadaga weighs DPW consolidation by Brandon Carmen. Cassadaga. Following the abrupt resignation of former Department of Works Supervisor Sam Alimo, the village had to work quickly to come up with a plan for what to do next. The short-term fix was to rely on assistance from neighboring municipalities, especially the town of Stockton, as well as Charlotte and Gary. Moving forward, the village is considering making that arrangement more of a permanent fix. Mayor Randy Abersold said at a recent village board meeting that the village is considering consolidation of its Department of Public Works, DPW. Under the umbrella of the Stockton Highway Department, Abersold has discussed the potential of consolidating the department with County Legislator John Penhallow and Town of Stockton Supervisor Dave Wilson. Another meeting is scheduled in the coming weeks for further discussion. While no decision has been made yet, the village is accepting applications for the replacement to Alino as DPW supervisor. Abersold said it is important to clarify the village's plan regarding consolidation or continuation of the department out of respect for future employees. The village board commended Bianca Riggle for stepping up after Alamino's resignation to keep the department afloat. The village has worked with neighboring municipalities for the plowing of roads and other duties of the department. Abersold said the village is committed to improving the condition of its facilities prior to hiring any new employees. Riggle presented the village board with a list of DPW equipment, including the current condition and replacement cost estimates of the village equipment, with many of the items carrying substantial replacement costs. The village is strongly considering consolidation to save taxpayers from the cost of replacing a substantial amount of equipment in the coming years. It's something that we should look into. We're already doing it, Trustee Jeff Frick said. If you just look at the price of equipment, a lot of communities are going to have to do this. Chautauqua County Executive P.J. Wendell has launched a county-wide initiative to encourage consolidation with grant funding available to municipalities pursuing consolidation of departments and services. Abersold said the village is actively exploring grant opportunities through Chautauqua County. Following the resignation of another critical village position, Clerk Annette McChesney, the village has called upon Sue Peacock, president of the Chautauqua County Municipal Clerks Association, to provide support as the village searches for a new village clerk. The village is also receiving support from Mary Quandras of KVS Springbrook Software to assist with payroll and accounts payable during a transition. After consulting with several advisors, confidence remains high that the village office will manage the transition effectively as Annette steps down as village clerk. The office is dedicated to maintaining stability and effectiveness during this period of change, Ebersol said. Matt Zarbo of Square Engineering also informed the village that his firm is willing to delay receipt of payments for its services during the transition regarding the ongoing capital improvement waterline project. The village board also recently reappointed Joe Camilleri as village attorney at a retainer of $13,000, which is within the village's budgeted amount. Also of note, in the month of December, the Cassadaga Volunteer Fire Department responded to 21 calls, including 17 emergency medical services EMS calls, 1 fire, and 2 motor vehicle accidents. In 2025, the department responded to 264 calls, including 183 EMS calls, 22 fire calls, and 23 motor vehicle accidents. The department provided mutual aid 112 times while receiving mutual aid 81 times. We can't thank those men and women enough, Ebersol said. The next village board meeting will be held Wednesday, February 11th. Ex-trustees bash Ferguson on lawsuit comments stance by M.J. Stratford. 2 former Fredonia trustees bashed Mayor Michael Ferguson over his stance on public comments at village meetings. Michelle Twitchell and James Landon are upset that Ferguson refuses to allow comments about a lawsuit filed against the village. Linden was one of 3 people who sued Fredonia over its September decision to decommission the water plant and reservoir and acquire water from the North County Water District. Twitchell was first to speak about the issue at the Board of Trustees meeting Monday. She declared that the trustees are violating the state's open meetings law by restricting public comments to given topics. She added that documents related to meeting agenda items ought to be posted on the village website at least 24 hours in advance of a meeting so the public has time to consider them. Linden alleged that Ferguson had used at least 4 versions of a restrictive statement about speaking on the lawsuit before opening the public comments portion of the meeting. Linden said the trustees and not Ferguson are supposed to have the final say on restricting comments at the meetings. Particularly after legislation was filed, the mayor appears to have engaged in viewpoint-based censorship. That is a textbook viewpoint discrimination under the First Amendment, said Linden, because Ferguson is targeting a group advocating a specific decision. Linden also alleged that Ferguson's remarks at village meetings are sanitized in the minutes that appear on Fredonia's website. Linden said Ferguson's behavior regarding the lawsuit suggests a pattern of retaliation or a chilling effect and intent to discourage public discussion on ongoing village matters, which further chills public participation in civic affairs. Ferguson did not comment on the former trustee's remarks. Dave says early spring, Phil sees shadow. From staff and wire reports. On a chilly Monday, Dunkirk Dave offered some optimism. When venturing out into the morning on a farm lane road in the town, he saw no shadow. That means an early spring. Dave's prediction came when temperatures in northern Chautauqua County were in the single digits. That's a much better outcome than what Pennsylvania's most famous groundhog, Punxsutawney Phil, predicted. He saw 6 more weeks of winter after emerging from his burrow at Gobbler's Knob and seeing his shadow. The news was greeted with a mix of cheers and boos from the tens of thousands who braved temperatures in the single digits Fahrenheit to await the annual prognostication. The extreme cold kept the crowd bundled up and helped keep people on the main stage dancing. Usually guests can come up on stage and take pictures of Phil after the prediction, but this year the announcer said it was too cold for that and his handlers were afraid to keep him out too long. Instead, the audience was asked to come to the stage, turn around, and do a selfie. The club says that when Phil is deemed to have not seen his shadow, that means there will be an early spring. When he does see it, it's 6 more weeks of winter. Phil tends to predict a longer winter far more often than the early spring. Rick Seiger, Pennsylvania Secretary of Community and Economic Development, said the outdoor thermometer in his vehicle read 4 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 15 Celsius, on his way to Gobbler's Knob. I think it's just fun, folks, having a good time, said Seiger, attending his 4th straight Groundhog Day in Punxsutawney. It brings people together at a challenging time. It is a unifying force that showcases the best of Pennsylvania, the best of Punxsutawney, this area. Groundhog Day falls on February 2nd, the midpoint between the shortest, darkest day of the year on the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It is a time of year that also figures in the Celtic calendar and the Christian holiday of Candlemas. Splash for Cash. Pine Valley Club raises funds for Special Olympics. By Sarah Holthouse, South Dayton. Each year, the Buffalo Cool School Polar Plunge is held to raise funds for Special Olympics. New York inviting area students to plunge into Lake Erie in frigid temperatures. The most recent plunge was held back in December, with students from Pine Valley Central School Unified Club participating in the total amount of funds raised through the activity recently coming in. Special Olympics New York helps fund schools unified clubs, including at Pine Valley, where students can participate in unified bowling, bocce, and basketball. Teams that have grown over the last 5 years. Pine Valley speech language pathologist and unified team coach Julia Santini said some of the students in the club had heard other teachers talking about the plunge and wanted to participate as a nice challenge and a nice way to give back to Special Olympics New York because of them providing funds for the club. Altogether, Pine Valley's Unified Club raised $2,322 for Special Olympics New York. It seemed like a challenge, said Sadie Krushka, a member of the Unified Club. I heard a teacher talking about how she does plunges and wanted to try something new. Santini noted that the club would not be able to participate in a polar plunge or any other activities that they do without the support of Pine Valley's administration and the transportation team. Our administration is beyond supportive, and our transportation team bent over backwards to get us where we needed to be, Santini said. Not all schools have that. Principal Brandy Meechan added to that, saying that the students often come from 4 or 5 locations to participate in a district's unified club. Sometimes this does mean students have to be pulled out of classes early, and Santini also noted that support from teachers and staff as well. Besides getting students to club activities physically, Santini said the polar plunge also required students to step out and challenge themselves to talk with people, as each student was required to raise $150 to go participate. All of Pine Valley students were successful in this regard and attended and participated in what Santini referred to as a magical event, praising the organization of it by Erica Reppy with Special Olympics New York. Organization of the overall event included activities for students while they waited to take the plunge, such as a DJ and dancing and having a heated tent with special guests. All of the funds raised go directly to Special Olympics New York, which helps to fund the unified clubs in the local region, and Santini said this is why it is important to Pine Valley students to do this. We wanted to support them because they support us, Santini said. Without their support, we wouldn't have this program or be able to implement it and show the need for it. There are many students that cannot participate in regular sports, and this is an opportunity for both disabled and non-disabled students to form friendships they wouldn't make otherwise. Additionally, she said the students were surprised at the amount they were able to raise for Special Olympics New York, and already saying they can do more next year. We raised a lot of money, but I think we could raise more, Krushka said. It goes to a good cause. Other student members also expressed their surprise. Additionally, they said raising this amount of funds means a lot to them, and it goes for a good cause. The money goes to a good cause, and it seemed like fun, James Medley said. We raised more than I expected. Donations from the community are appreciated. This was Pine Valley's second year participating in the polar plunge, but only the first year students were able to actually take the plunge. At the year before, it was deemed too dangerous to do with the weather. They were still able to do a form of it used in a spray from a hose. We were not able to do the traditional plunge last year, so the students wanted to do it this year, and we actually able to take the plunge, Santini said. All of the students said they want to do it again, and we have a bus driver and other staff members that say they want to do it. Unified Club member Skylar Cooper added to that, saying they wanted to do the plunge this year. We tried to plunge last year, but we couldn't because of the weather. Cooper said, I wanted to actually plunge this year. Two other club members, Brandon Sightwood and Hunter Colvin, agreed that the plunge was something they really wanted to do as well. Colvin noted that raising funds through the plunge allows them to help others through a program that has helped them. I wanted to raise money. Special Olympics programs have helped me out for years, Colvin said. I'm surprised that we raised this much. I wasn't expecting that. Our group used teamwork to succeed in fundraising. For Sightwood, the availability to help others is also the reason. Raising money and participating in a plunge is something they wanted to do. I always wanted to participate in a plunge, she said. It is nice knowing that the money helps to provide opportunities for students in our area. When asked what being in unified sports and Pine Valley's Unified Club meant to them, students agreed that these sports bring people together that do not normally connect, and they are less exclusive than other sports. It also allows students to commit to something after school and raise awareness about disabilities, along with letting students get involved and be included. From a coaching perspective, Santini said she loves to see these students learn sensitivity to one another and to see them talk and interact and become friends with those they would not normally. Citing one student with significant needs who walks through the halls and has many students who say hello to her and know her name. From the administrator perspective, Meacham said that the club helps to open their eyes as well. Unified as a whole for the administration team that has to make decisions for all students. It opens the eyes of the faculty, staff, and students and gives students a natural opportunity to make friends and get involved, Meacham said. We see students participating together, more often now in places like gym or art classes than we are have a club of fourth graders now that are writing letters for adults with disabilities. It has become a way of life for Pine Valley community, which is cool to see. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. State aims to rein in high insurance costs. Observer Staff Report. New York State is attempting to tackle the high cost of car insurance. On Tuesday, Governor Kathy Hochul highlighted proposals to bring down cost of vehicle insurance rates and tackle fraudulent claims across New York State. Hochul said she is taking common-sense steps to battle fraud, limit damages paid out to bad actors, and ensure that consumers, not insurance companies, are prioritized. These proposals build on Governor Hochul's ongoing efforts to make the state more affordable and put money back in the pockets of hardworking New Yorkers. New Yorkers know all too well that the cost of car insurance is way too high, and for most, having a car is a daily necessity, whether you're required to travel for work or to run errands. Governor Hochul said, these common-sense proposals will not only crack down on fraudulent claims that drive up the cost of car insurance, they'll put money back in the pockets of hard-working New Yorkers, allowing them a sense of relief. New Yorkers pay some of the highest car insurance rates in the nation, totaling just over $4,000 annually on average, nearly $1,500 above the national average. Car insurance rates are driven up by a combination of fraud, litigation, legal loopholes, and enforcement gaps, with stage crashes and associated insurance fraud inflating everyone's premiums by as much as $300 per year on average, according to some estimates. Increasingly sophisticated actors stage elaborate accidents designed to allow for jackpot payouts from insurance companies or jury awards, and these scams are becoming more prevalent. In 2023, there were 1,729 staged crashes in New York State, which ranks second highest in the nation for incidents of stage fraud. In total, insurance carriers reported 43,811 incidents of suspected motor vehicle insurance fraud to the New York State Department of Financial Services, DFS. Insurance Frauds Bureau in 2025. This is up from 24,238 incidents or suspected motor vehicle insurance fraud claims from 2020, an 80% increase in 3 years. To combat these organized criminal effects, Hochul is taking a whole-of-government approach cracking down on auto insurance fraud, including reinvigorating the state's Motor Vehicle Theft and Insurance Fraud Prevention Board, empowering it to do better support the ability and to investigate and prosecute insurance fraud across the state. Legislation to ensure prosecutors can seek criminal penalties against any individual responsible for organizing a staged accident, not just a particular individual behind the wheel. Partnering with district attorneys across New York to help build cases that put an end to the organized fraud that's robbing New Yorkers via elevated insurance rates. Strengthening efforts to take on medical providers who participate in the fraud by signing off on phony medical diagnoses that result in enormous payouts. Taking action when New York State drivers illegally register their vehicles in other states, which artificially decreases their coverage and raises costs for law-abiding New York drivers. County Furnace Programs helps keep seniors in their homes, by Gregory Bacon. At the beginning of winter, Both the Home Energy Assistance Program and the Heating Equipment Repair and Replace Program were on the chopping blocks. The HEAP program returned, but the HER program did not. Due to the HER elimination, Chautauqua County is doing what it can to help senior citizens keep their furnaces in working order. Dana Corwin, director of the County Office for the Aging Services, has announced a new Warm and Well at Home program for adults 60 and older. The initiative focuses on preventive home maintenance, particularly the annual cleaning and safety inspection of home heating equipment, Corwin said. This will help to reduce safety risk involved in heating issues, improve energy efficiency, and prevent costly emergency repairs. Corwin explained that Warm and Well program helps seniors remain in their homes as they continue to age. Older adults can live safely, stay healthy, and remain connected to their communities while also strengthening neighborhoods across Chautauqua County, she said. A specific income level was not announced, although the program is designed for seniors who have a self-stated financial barrier. Seniors must reside in Chautauqua County and be living in the home being serviced. The funds are for maintenance and inspection, not replacement of a furnace. Secondary homes and rentals do not qualify. Funding is limited, and we will be continually monitoring the demand for this service, Corwin said. The Office for the Aging is participating with Chautauqua Home Rehabilitation and Improvement Corporation to inspect and maintain furnaces. Joshua Farrell, the director of CHRIC, said they have about 8 or 9 vetted companies that will be doing the inspections and maintenance work. As part of the campaign, we anticipate our trusted partners will do a run-through of the entire furnace system, whether it is gas or electric furnace, including looking at the filter, replacing it if need be, and examining the equipment to ensure everything is properly running the way it's supposed to do, he said. Bridget Palada, New York Connects Corridor, said seniors will actually apply through her office as state money is ultimately being used to fund the new initiative. To apply or get more information, call 716-753-4582. Email ccnyc@chqgov.com or stop by one of the 3 offices in Dunkirk, Mayville, or Jamestown. Their Mayville office is located at HRC Building at 7 North Erie Street on the 2nd floor. Their Jamestown office is located at 107 Institute Street in the Chautauqua Center on the 2nd floor, Suite 20. Their Dunkirk office is located at 51 East 3rd Street, also in the Chautauqua Center, between the lab and the physical therapy office. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Seneca signed pact with U.S. Army Corps of on Kinzua Dam, Salamanca. The Seneca Nation is resetting its relationship with key federal agency responsible for the forced relocation of its people 60 years ago to establish a foundation for meaningful dialogue in the future. Nation leaders this week, hosted by representatives from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Pittsburgh District, on the nation's Allegheny Territory. During a more than hour-long discussion, Seneca Nation President J. Conrad Seneca and Colonel Nicholas Mellon, commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Pittsburgh District, signed a memorandum of understanding that establishes consultation procedures for a meaningful, timely, and collaborative process when the Army Corps Pittsburgh District is planning and implementing civil works projects and programs that implicate or have a direct effect on the nation and its members. Our agreement sets in place a framework that requires meaningful dialogue and consultation between the Army Corps and the Seneca Nation on matters that affect us. This commitment has been lacking for decades. President Seneca said, "The MOU does not mean that we will always agree, but I hope it leads to a better relationship and better results for the Seneca Nation and our people." The Corps of Engineers is committed to realigning its partnership and rebuilding trust with the Seneca Nation, said Colonel Mellon. The Memorandum of Understanding sets the framework for us to navigate challenges together through open and meaningful consultation, collaboration, and communication. Today's meeting follows a meeting between nation leaders and the Army Corps officials that took place in Washington last year through the assistance and coordination of Congressman Nick Langworthy. It was clear to everyone at the meeting that the relationship between the Seneca Nation and the Army Corps needed to be better, Seneca said. The consultation practices that had been followed previously were nominal and nothing that the nation could reliably count on. The MOU comes as the Army Corps is preparing for an upcoming dam safety modification study to plan for the future of the Kinza Dam, which was built in the 1960s to help alleviate flooding in Pittsburgh and provide cheap hydropower for downstream users. Approximately 10,000 acres of nation land were taken by the United States over the nation's objection without just compensation, and hundreds of Seneca families were forced from their homes as part of the dam's construction, despite the nation and its engineering consultants presenting an alternative plan. It's been more than 60 years since the devastating removal of our people and the loss of destruction of our land. We were never justly compensated for the destruction, President Seneca said. Our people still suffer from pain and trauma associated with our forced removal from our home. Any talk of rebuilding a dam reopens those wounds. If the Corps finds any concerns about the safety and condition of the dam, then in our opinion, it should be removed with a new dam built downstream. Under the framework of our MOU we signed today, the nation will have meaningful input on what ultimately happens. Trump and Xi discuss Iran and wide-ranging calls as U.S. presses China to break from Tehran. Washington. AP. President Donald Trump said Wednesday that he and Chinese President Xi Jinping discussed the situation in Iran in a wide-ranging call as the U.S. administration pushes Beijing and others to further isolate Tehran. Trump said the two leaders also discussed a broad range of other critical issues in the U.S.-China relationship, including trade and Taiwan, as it plans to visit Beijing in April. The relationship with China and my personal relationship with President Xi is extremely good, one we both realize how important it is to keep it that way, Trump said in social media posts about the call. The Chinese government, in a readout of the call, said the two leaders discussed major summits that both nations will host in the coming year that could present opportunities for them to meet. The Chinese statement, however, made no mention of Trump's expected April visit to Beijing. Trump and Xi discussed Iran as tensions remain high between Washington and Tehran over Iran's bloody crackdown at nationwide protests last month. The U.S. president says he is weighing taking military action against the Middle Eastern country. Trump is also pressuring Iran to make concessions over its nuclear program, which his Republican administration says is already set back by the U.S. bombing of 3 Iranian nuclear sites during the 12-day war Israel launched against Iran in June. White House officials on Tuesday said Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is slated to take part of talks with Iranian officials later this week. Trump announced last month that the U.S. would impose a 25% tax on imports to the United States from countries that do business with Iran. China is Iran's biggest trading partner. Years of sanctions aimed at stopping Iran's nuclear program have left the country isolated, but Tehran still did nearly $125 billion in international trade in 2024, including $32 billion with China, $28 billion with the United Arab Emirates, and $17 billion with Turkey, the World Trade Organization says. China also made clear that it has no intention of stepping away from its long-term plans of reunification with Taiwan, a self-governing democratic island operating independently from mainland China, though Beijing claims it is its own territory. The Trump administration in December announced a massive package of arms sales to Taiwan valued at more than $10 billion. That includes medium-range missiles, howitzers, and drones. The move continues to draw an angry response from Beijing. Taiwan will never be allowed to separate from China, the Chinese government statement said. The U.S. must handle the issue of arms sales to Taiwan with prudence. Separately, Xi also spoke on Wednesday with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Xi's engagement with Trump and Putin comes as the last remaining nuclear arms pact known as the New START Treaty between Russia and the United States is set to expire Thursday, removing any caps of the 2 largest atomic arsenals for the first time in more than a half-century. Trump has indicated he would like to keep limits on nuclear weapons but wants to involve China in a potential new treaty. I actually feel strongly that if we were to do it, I think China should be a member of the extension, Trump told the New York Times last month. China should be a part of the agreement. The call with Xi also coincided with a ministerial meeting that the Trump administration convened in Washington with several dozen European, Asian, and African nations to discuss how to rebuild global supply chains of critical minerals without Beijing. Critical minerals are needed for everything from jet engines to smartphones. China dominates the market for those ingredients crucial to high-tech products. What is before all of us is an opportunity at a self-reliance that we never have to rely on anybody else except each other for critical minerals necessary to sustain our industries and to sustain growth, Vice President J.D. Vance said at a gathering. Xi has recently held a series of meetings with Western leaders who have sought to boost ties with China amid growing concerns about Trump's tariff policies and calls for the U.S. to take over Greenland, a Danish territory. The disruption to global trade under Trump has made expanding trade and investment more imperative for many U.S. economic partners. Vietnam and the European Union upgraded ties to comprehensive strategic partnership last month, 2 days after the EU and India announced a free trade agreement. Hanford Bay lawsuit makes waves by M.J. Stafford, Hanover. 2 former members of the Hanford Bay Association are suing the homeowners group, alleging it has too much power. Hanford Bay is a neighborhood along Lake Erie in the town of Hanover, south of the Cattaraugus Creek and next to Sunset Bay. The lawsuit by Patricia Young and Sandra Young in state Supreme Court alleges their decision to quit the Hanford Bay Homeowners Association is a product of the association's abusing its authority and attempting to hold itself as a formal homeowners association when it is not. The group has no legal right to force the collection of yearly fees, maintain lands which it has no title rights to, or govern the rights of Hanford Bay homeowners generally, the lawsuit claims. It's not clear from the lawsuit if the Youngs are related, but they live near each other on Front Street. A key part of their argument is that Hanford Bay was unincorporated when the Homeowners Association was created in 1924, but is now under the government of the town of Hanover. Since Hanford Bay was incorporated as part of the town of Hanover has assumed responsibility for the maintenance and public safety functions that the association once undertook, according to the suit. In return, Hanford Bay property owners pay property taxes directly to the town of Hanover. The Young said they paid association fees for years and only received trash collection services in return. However, a dispute over a right-of-way directly led them to quitting the association. Their lawsuit alleges the association has represented itself to Hanford Bay property owners as an organization with the legal authority to enforce the collection of yearly service fees and to maintain rights of way to which the association has no title interest in. Sandra Young's property has a right of way down to Lake Erie. Even though the association is allegedly not a party to the right of way agreement, beginning in or around 2022, it took upon itself to dictate who could use the right of way and the manner in which it is used. The association subsequently staked signage identifying the right of way. And posted the location and permissible uses on its website. This has caused it to be used by several individuals lacking the right to use the path. The Youngs have attempted to tell the association it has no authority over use of the right of way, but to no avail. Instead, the association has made repeated false claims that it is entitled to maintain and assert authority over all of the rights of the way in Hanford Bay. With the Youngs out of the association, they are no longer paying its garbage collection fees. They allege the association has sent them letters claiming that all the Hanford Bay residents must pay the fees. It has also threatened to impose interest and penalties for the refusal to pay the fees. The Youngs want a ruling that the Homeowners Association is a voluntary membership group and that it lacks the authority to mandate fees. They also seek a court declaration that the association cannot maintain or use a right-of-way on Sandra Young's property. Buffalo law firm McGavern Grimm is representing the association in the case. Lawyer Rich Grimm offered a response to the lawsuit from the association. For more than 100 years, the Hanford Bay Association has been and remains a close-knit group of homeowners who enjoy one another's company and the benefits of owning property in a beautiful beachfront community. The association provides a variety of services to all the homeowners for a very modest annual fee that amounts to less than $250 per year. The association disputes the allegations of the lawsuit brought by the two neighbors and intends to defend the rights of the remaining 200 plus homeowners in our association. While we are disappointed that our neighbors have sued the association, we remain hopeful that the matter might be resolved through direct communication. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Ready to help. Dawson named Executive Director of Boys and Girls Club by Braden Carmen. Albert Einstein once said, "Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value." Kate Dawson had that quote written on her whiteboard for her children's families and staff to see as they walked through the doors of St. Hyacinth School, the new home of the Boys and Girls Club, this past week. Dawson, a self-proclaimed bookworm, has no shortage of quotes to pick from as a whiteboard material. But it was that specific quote that seemed fitting for the moment when Dawson welcomed the board of directors for her first meeting as the newest executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Northern Chautauqua County. Over the past year and a half, Dawson has become invaluable to the club, so much so that she earned the blessing of the board to take the reins as its next leader. My goal every day showing up here is to be the person that the children need, the person that the staff need here, Dawson said. Dawson was appointed by the board of directors in December and officially took over the role in January. She replaced Jody Faulkner, who stepped in as interim executive director this past summer. Beginning in the fall of 2024, Dawson led Chautauqua Strider's after-school tutoring program at the Boys and Girls Club. She quickly became an important member of the team at the club. Children and families became more familiar with her as the year went on, and she took added responsibilities through the summer program and through Girls on the Run. This school year, as the club settled into its new home on St. Hyacinth, Dawson took on more of the leadership role with the staff. Alongside Faulkner as interim executive director and program director Christian Briggs, Dawson was a go-to person for a young, fresh staff at the club. Dawson understands the bigger picture when it comes to the club and what it means to be a community. To her, it's not just an after-school program where she can tutor students until their parents or guardians pick them up for a few hours. It is a place where children and families can get the support they need, whatever way they need it. Here at the club, we're that person for some of the kids that they say they can come and say, "I'm having emotional issues, please help me." I want to be a big supporting force for this club, the staff, the kids, the parents, and whoever I can help, Dawson said. In fact, one of Dawson's go-to phrases at the club is, "How can I help?" She wants to be supportive of her staff and especially the children of the club to have their backs whenever she can. I think that it is important that I am always telling them that I have their back, that I am on their side, Dawson said. Especially when there are emotional issues, it's important to validate employees, kids, and parents. Dawson wants to be seen as validating, as reliable, especially when she is asked to come through for someone else. "I'm that person who will show up 10 times out of 10 if I can," Dawson said. "If you need me, I'm there." At various times in her life, Dawson felt like she did not have the support that many others did. As she has grown into a leader in the professional life, Dawson keeps that feeling in mind. She uses as an inspiration to be a person that her staff can rely on. They do not feel alone. I know what it feels like not to have anybody on your side. I know what it feels like to be completely by yourself and to have somebody just say to figure it out. Dawson said, I don't want other people to feel that. Dawson, 27, was born in Lockport, then spent a good portion of her youth in North Tonawanda. She then moved to Hamburg as a teenager. Dawson became involved in the ROTC. She became a first sergeant with the Civil Air Patrol, the Air Force branch of ROTC in Hamburg. Dawson later attended Erie Community College, where she obtained a liberal arts degree with a focus on math and science. After that, Dawson went to veterinary school and earned a bachelor's degree in veterinary technology. Dawson held a managerial position at Tim Hortons, GameStop, and at the Clarion Hotel Banquet Hall. She took on a position at Chautauqua Striders and tutor in the fall of 2024. Dawson defines herself as a team player. She does not believe in one person being above another in a team setting, even as she assumes the role of executive director. I am part of a team, and if they fail, I fail, Dawson said of her staff. Dawson is well aware of the difference between working with customers or clients compared to children and families at the Boys and Girls Club. I deal with more tantrums now than ever, she joked. Dawson believes the challenge is worth it. I feel like I made a bigger impact here, Dawson said. I can manage anywhere, but here I get to see the outcome. I get to see the report cards change. I get to see the coping behaviors that I teach children day to day. Dawson credits former executive director Janie Galloway as a mentor in her journey to become the next person to fill the role. She recalls how supportive Galloway was over their time working together last year. Galloway's relationship with the children of the club, their families, and the staff set an example for Dawson to follow. I talked to Jeannie a lot last year. She's fantastic, Dawson said, especially with the kids and with the staff. All the staff loved her. Dawson's ideal day away from work would be spent in a bookstore. She loves to read anything from motivational books to the Hunger Games. If it's a good, I'll read it. She said in her new role, Dawson wants to encourage literacy for the children of the club. With pink highlights in her hair, nose piercings, and over 30 tattoos, both down her arms and all over her body, Dawson appearance commands attention. When I walk into a room, I'm obviously different from everybody else, and I like that, Dawson said. Her alternative style began to take form after high school as she started to become out of her shell. Dawson was not a very sociable child, but now her appearance often sparks a conversation. I enter more conversations than not because somebody compliments my hair or asks about my tattoos, Dawson said. It's a kind of way for me to break the ice without actually having to talk first. Dawson proves that appearance has no bearing on professionalism. Her tone is commanding, and her vocabulary is vast. She is experienced and confident as a leader, and she is sure of who she is and what she stands for. She defines her appearance as a funny haha, something more people need in their lives. I think the contradiction is funny to me, Dawson said. I like to be whimsy. I like to act whimsy. I think it's fun. Being an executive director, also having pink hair, just feels good. In the coming weeks, Dawson's will find a new quote for the whiteboard in the hallway of the club. She will search for the words to reach someone else as they walk the halls she now finds herself in command of. For her own journey, Dawson could turn to a quote from the Hunger Games author Suzanne Collins wrote, "As long as you can find yourself, you'll never starve." Through all her various stops, Dawson found herself on the way to becoming a leader right where she belongs. Eminent Domain proceeds in town of Dunkirk by Braden Carmen. After working toward a resolution to waterline issues in a town since 2020, the Dunkirk Town Board has taken another step forward in the push for the Sherwood Water Project to proceed. The Town Board authorized special counsel to file an Article 4 petition to advance to the next step of eminent domain proceedings in court. The town is seeking a court order for the acquisition of rights of way pertaining to private roads throughout the Sherwood Water District. It's something that we've been working on for quite some time, Supervisor Sherry Miller said of the Sherwood Water Project. Sherwood Water District covers portions of Woodlands Drive, Edwards Drive, Shorewood Drive East, Shorewood Drive West, Farm Lane Road, Linwood Drive, Lakewood Drive, Morewood Drive, and Wilbur Road. The project would serve 173 residential properties and 16 commercial properties. On March 15, 2022, the town of Dunkirk held a public hearing with an engineer present to discuss the necessary improvements to the district. Following the hearing, the town board elected to move forward with the project. A contract was then prepared. The town board set the project cost at an amount not to exceed $2,295,000. More than 3 years later, even after town secured more than $1.3 million in grant funding through the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, the project has yet to break ground. The reason why comes down to easements. Because of how narrow the roads are within the district, permanent easements are necessary for the work to proceed. However, because of the way the neighborhood was constructed, many of the roads are private roads, making securing easements much more complicated than the town had initially expected. Some of the roads were developed and maintained by residents dating back roughly 100 years, while not ever being filed through the proper channels. To remain eligible for the grant funds, the town must enter into a project finance agreement by September 30, 2026. Facing a time crunch to remain eligible for the grant funding, the town board went to its last resort of eminent domain proceedings to secure the necessary easements. We're going to get moving on this before we lose our grant money, the town board member Phil Leon. The improvements would be made to the water system already in place. The project would address connection problems with water main breaks and inadequate flow, as well as ensuring proper fire protection. If the project does not proceed, the existing system would stay as it is, which town attorney Jeff Passafaro stated would result in escalating water shortages and a lack of adequate fire protection. The remaining landowners who were holding out from signing easements have agreed to proceed with the project, but the legal process is still ongoing due to the nature of the private roads. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer. We read from the Dunkirk Observer every Saturday at noon. Your reader has been Donald. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of our Northtown Bee papers, which includes Amherst, Clarence, Cheektowaga, Depew, and Lancaster. At 2 o'clock, we have our Southtown papers, which is the Orchard Park Bee, East Aurora Bee, West Seneca Bee, and Hamburg Sun. Following that, 3 o'clock is the Ampole Eagle. Stay with us. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print